going through Broadcastify for a 911 call the other day.
Yeah.
And all of their stuff is in military time. So the girl who was trying to find the call was asking, what time does this mean in military time? And I said, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, all the networks do it, and atomic time and all that stuff, and military, of course, but police and fire do it too. So
which is
good skill
to know for this business. Okay, well, we can just start now since he's recording.
All right.
Okay. So I just got my first job in Des Moines, and I want to ask you, what would be some advice for a reporter out of college in their first job?
My number one piece of advice would be to soak up as much as you possibly can. You want to ask every question. It's your first job. You have every excuse to ask, question. You definitely want to ask to be triple sure that you're doing stuff the right way and that you're learning and soaking up information versus trying to do it on your own to prove yourself and messing up. It is imperative that we be accurate, that we be accountable, and that we be good citizens, not just as journalists, but as citizens of the community that we're tapped to serve. So I would say the biggest thing is to keep your nose to the ground. It's easy to be distracted by new bars and restaurants, making new friends and things of that nature. Those things will come with time as you spend time there, focusing on the job, focusing on learning and bettering yourself in a professional manner. You're going to succeed, but ask as many questions as you can. And the beauty of a lot of people's first job is they're going somewhere that they don't know anybody. So if you don't know anybody in town, it's okay if you screw up. It's okay if you learn on the fly. That's, I always say, go learn how to be on camera, go stutter and do your thing somewhere else, and then you come home to the community that you love, or go to the big city that you've always wanted to live in, or whatever community is calling out to you. But number one with the bullet, it's pay close attention, ask for feedback, take that feedback and put it into action, because if somebody tells you multiple times and you're not soaking that in, or if you're not asking questions to better yourself, it becomes starkly noticeable, and that's a quick way to have a news director or a manager write you off. If you are inquisitive, naturally curious, and you prove yourself as hardworking and very intent to do a good job, they're going to take you under their wing, and they're really going to help make you a better person to perform at their station or wherever else you end up.
And on the topic of messing up, how would you handle if you were to mess up?
As the employee or as the manager to the employee?
Manager to the employee.
Good question. Look, here's the deal. Typos happen. Breaking news situations, information is fluid. You may have information that's coming in, and then that information might change as police or deputies or whomever gain new knowledge and are able to alter the picture of what truly happened in a breaking news scenario, an investigation, or whatever it is. Number one with the bullet is attribution. You should always know, how do I know this information to be true? Who told it to me? How did they know it to be true? You want to make sure that as a journalist, you are accurate to as clear as a bell as you possibly can be. And as far as when a mistake happens, if it's a misspelling, if it's a typo, those things are easy to combat. That's why my thing is spell check, spell check, spell check. It's like, oh, did you spell check? Yeah, why don't you check that again? You have an extra 5 minutes. It's whatever it takes to make sure that everything is completely buttoned up. So from a management perspective, we have to watch the show. Flat out. We have to help with story development. We have to provide feedback. Sometimes that feedback stings, particularly for younger folks. But what we are trying to get across to those new young journalists is this is not designed to call you out. This is not designed to make you feel inferior. This is designed to say, hey, we didn't do this right. We need to fix this and move on. And if it's a typo, that's easily done. If it's misinformation, that's a whole nother story. So if we're dealing with a situation of misinformation, we have to run it up the chain. I have to figure out, how did this misinformation get to us? Did police tell us it was $35,000 and they meant $350,000? Could very well have been a typo in their press release. It happens. It literally happened to us last week. We get something from the police officers and their information was unfortunately inaccurate. those things, again, are easy to fix and move on. But from a management perspective, everything is a learning opportunity. And this goes back to learning, understanding the root cause of the issue. Was it you were rushing around and your notepad was over there, but the live shot is now, and you got to go now, and you're relying on memory? That's a problem. It's all about making yourself self-efficient, making sure that you are absorbing the knowledge that you're learning about during the story and not relying solely on notes. You got to be paying attention to what's happening, right? So from a manager to an employee, that's an opportunity for me to, sometimes it's private, sometimes it's in a news meeting scenario, and it's all about just making sure that we understand what happened, how did this happen, what can we do to make sure it does not happen again. And then it's a trust and a commitment, a trust from the manager to the employee and a commitment from the employee to the manager that this is not going to happen again.
And we talked about deadlines. And as a first reporter, you're not used to all of those. What are some tips that you would give new reporters on meeting those deadlines?
We work in a world of deadlines. That's one reason that a lot of us are in it. We those deadlines drive us, right? They fuel us. It's an adrenaline rush, and that's exciting. The biggest thing is you can't let the adrenaline rush get in the way of the information or of the duty. For us, if somebody misses a live shot, or, there better be a dang good reason. If it's, I didn't leave early enough and I got hung up in traffic, now we've got a major issue, because that's inefficiencies. So as far as meeting deadlines, the biggest thing is being very clear on what the deadlines are, being very clear on what your expectations are. That comes from the management to the employee, but it also comes from the employee. It goes back to the questions. If we're unsure, or we're unclear, you got to speak up. If things are changing out in the field, things are going to change out in the field. Your story is going to change drastically. Your angle may change drastically. The personal angle interview you were really banking on may change or drop out. Your story, you might be covering the baseball game and it gets rained out. What are you going to do? Always have a backup plan, a plan A and a plan B mentally, and make sure you communicate that with your manager, and communicate often. We're in a business of communication, and we are also a business of MMJs, one-man bands, people wearing a lot of different hats and doing a lot of different things. So the biggest thing I would say to you is find your personal efficiency level, but over-communicate and know that deadline. If it's an alarm on your phone, so be it. If it's you wearing an Apple Watch and checking, every 20 minutes to see where you're at. If it's setting mini deadlines throughout the day, that works for some people. It's really individualized. The biggest thing is got to get done, because the 5 o'clock news goes on the air at 5 o'clock, and if you're not ready, you're in trouble.
On a new topic, social media has become a huge part of this business.
Oh, yeah.
Where would you draw the line for reporters who want to reach their audience? What is sharing too much?
Sure. Bikini pics, too much. But seriously, that's a great question, because we have run into a lot of young people who have lived their entire life on social media. It's part of the norm. I did not grow up with that. Social media hit when I was in college and afterwards. So I was learning it as everyone else was learning it. Now people are, there's an expectation that you know what's right and what's wrong. We want people to portray not just their news stuff, but in the stories that they cover, the events that they're present at, we want them to have a personality, because a large part of what we do is the audience has to connect with you. They want to feel like they know you. They want to feel like they can trust you. They're inviting you into their home at vulnerable times of the day, when they're cooking dinner, when they're changing clothes, when they're in and out of the shower. We often don't think about that vulnerability with the viewer. And if they don't trust you and they don't like you, they're not going to allow you into their home and into their lives at those key points. And social media can help build trust, and it can erode trust very quickly. So in addition to sharing accurate and accountable stories that you want to put out there for people, let them know what you're into. If you are passionate about dogs, you have a dog and you volunteer at the animal shelter, absolutely put that stuff out there. For me, even though I don't appear on camera, I do a lot of community events. A thing for me is I love craft beer. That can really quickly go one way or the other. Same if you're into fine wines or traveling or something like that, that some folks may not identify with or may not be supportive of. But there's a way to do it with style and class and grace that showcases your personality and says, hey, here's who I am. I'm very interested in these types of things. I enjoy them responsibly. And I just want to just share my life and let you get a peek at what I do outside of hours. And I may want to, if you're at these events, please come up and talk to me. I want to know what you're interested in. So you can still definitely share those things. But it's another thing if you're very interested in tequila shots.
Yeah.
But you get my drift. I think if it feels iffy, just don't do it. If you have worked out for 6 months and you look great in this swimsuit on the beach, is it tastefully done? It really depends. Are you posting it to a news account or a personal account? That's a question we get asked a lot. There are no such things as personal accounts in the news business. If you're very blue or very red as a politically minded, you can't, there are some things that we need to remain objective on. That's certainly one of them. So I would say, you can be opinionated and you can showcase your personality, but avoid controversial topics that anyone could see as a bias that may come through in your reporting, even if they have any inclination that it might come out in your reporting. Just avoid.
And on the topic of sharing events you go to, what do you think about the safety that comes with that for reporters?
Sure, and that's a big topic, especially after a reporter was attacked and killed on camera, and I know a lot of people think about that. For us, I think there's a general sense of safety. 90% of the time, we're at events where normal people would be. The governor may be there, the Razorback coach may be there, the president of Arvest Bank may be there. It could be any host of local notables. The biggest thing is you do what you feel safe with. If you're attending an event that you really, Race for the Cure is this weekend, there are going to be so many people out there. I'm proud to showcase on social media that I'm out there, my staff is out there, and that we're supporting a great cause. There are going to be dangers. I think that you can't hide behind that type of stuff, and you just have to say, look, I'm involved in the community, I'm getting out there. You just can't live in fear with things of that nature. If you're in a dangerous situation, it might be worthwhile to think twice. But to be frank, I can't think of a single time when our reporting staff has ever been in a physical location that they wouldn't have felt comfortable sharing that with the viewer.
I've thought a lot about this with critical emails coming in to reporters. How would you suggest a reporter handle those?
That is an excellent question. Each station has a different policy, management to management. They may choose to deal with this different ways. In our newsroom, reporters do not, and anchors, any on-air talent, they do not reply to those emails. Those are sent to myself and to the general manager, and we will reply to those. Oftentimes, if it's a complaint about information, my first thing is I'm going back to look at the story. I'm going to check the web story. I'm going to check the online, or not just the online story, but the on-air story. I'm going to check anything that I can to determine, was there an error? Does what this person say, does it hold water? And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't, or they misheard something, or they missed a portion of the story, or something like that, in which case I just educate them. I say, hey, thank you so much for writing in. I'm really glad that you did. I'm not sure if you saw this portion. Can you tell me about this error or what, a lot of times people are pleasantly surprised I wrote them back. But, we're able to educate the public and make sure they're getting the entire picture. There are definitely times when they're writing in to talk about somebody's outfit, to talk about somebody's hair, to make a comment that would be deemed inappropriate. And we have handled those as well. We've blocked people on Facebook. We have turned people over to Fayetteville Police Department if we felt necessary. But as a talent in our newsroom, we don't allow them to reply to anything but positive things that they can then engage with a viewer in a positive manner.
Okay. And then as a first-year reporter, what are some tips to stand out among the veterans there?
Sure. I would say number one is professionalism. It's something that a lot of younger people think they have a good grasp on, but sometimes miss the mark. And by that I mean showing up on time is number one with a bullet. Be there on time and be engaged. If you're sitting in your corner on the phone constantly, you may be checking emails, you may be working a source, but understand how that's perceived by others in the room as you may not be paying attention. You know, so there's a way to combat that. And again, it's that over communication of, guys, I gotta step out of the meeting because I'm working on this story that I'm about to turn around and pitch. That's totally appropriate. Dressing professionally. We don't all have to wear Hillary Clinton business suits and you know, dress super conservatively, but we need to be mindful of what the viewer is going to feel comfortable with. Again, most of our viewers are going to be middle-aged women. Women ages 25 to 54 are often our largest swath of viewers, and understanding what they feel comfortable with. You want to err more on the side of Katie Couric than, you know, say, someone on the E! Network. So understanding things like that, I would say, you know, just listening, paying close attention, asking for feedback makes people stand out. If you are saying to a manager, hey, what did you think of my story last night? You will quickly find out if that manager watched your story last night, or if that manager is paying close attention to your work. And sometimes they may be so inundated with other tasks that they didn't get a chance to see the 10 o'clock last night, but you know what? Now that Erica's asked me to, I need to go back and watch that on my phone really quick in my office, and they'll do it. I promise you that. So asking for feedback, you will get feedback. And other than that, I would just say, be very open and kind-hearted to the community. If you may get to a community and decide, gosh, you know what, I'm just not feeling like I really fit in here, or I'm just not getting stories to turn. No one's calling me with a tip. I don't understand what's going on. It can be really easy to go home after a really hard day, long day, maybe spent in the rain, maybe spent in a city council meeting that droned on, and just want to be by yourself curled up with the cat and some Netflix. Push yourself to be a part of the community and really give it a good go. You will be shocked at the stories that just flow right, you know, just right up to your feet. It's an ocean of stories out there. If you eat in a restaurant by yourself and just strike up a conversation with the bartender, if you go to a museum by yourself and talk to people, if you show up to an event by yourself and just get to know people, there are a lot of other young professionals in every town that are doing the same thing, and you can create a fabulous network. But number one is really connect with your community, because it will inevitably connect with you, and enterprise stories will just come out of nowhere.
When you're talking to these people, would you suggest letting them know who you work for, or just talking to them as a person?
Great question. I would say you feel it out first. So again, if you're on television, they may know you, they may recognize you, and they may say something. If they don't recognize you, talk to them as though you're just interested. And then when you get to a subject that you really think might become a story, you can say, you know, it's really interesting you say that. I work for a local TV station. We've been talking about this very issue. What do you think about blank? And you can just kind of get to know, you know, and feel it out that way. For me, I've gone to events around town by myself for a long time. Some people know who I am because I've worked for the station for a long time, and some people don't. And as soon as I tell them, it's usually a turn on. People are interested in, oh, and then they want to ask you about this story or this other personality. They want to ask you whatever it is. Or sometimes they'll ask for a card and they'll pass it along to their friends and family, or somebody they know that might be interested in talking to you about a story. So I would just say feel it out. And if you feel like it may not be appropriate to share that right then, you can chill on that. But I would say, you know, most of the time, you can work it in easily, and people are welcome to it once they've gotten a few minutes to get to know you.
Finding stories in a place that you've never been, how would you suggest starting that?
Natural curiosity and experience. I'm a traveler. If you're a traveler at all, literally walking down the street, I always, you know, say to my staff, you should be able to come up with a story idea to and from work every day. Yes, you're going to drive pretty much the same exact route every day, but there's probably a story somewhere along there that's morphing and changing. You know, is there a new sign that's appeared on the side of the school that says bus drivers needed? Hey, it might be a pacer, it might be a package. whatever it is, there's new information of something that's changing in your community that's likely to affect a lot of people that you might be able to bring up in a meeting, and perhaps people expound upon it, and it becomes something that you never even envisioned. But ultimately, it's just about being perceptive and aware of the world around you. What are you seeing every day? Is there something that you're seeing every day and you're like, I've always wondered about that. I wonder what that's about. That could immediately become a feature story. You might hear something on the radio and think, gosh, is it just me? Or it feels like I've been hearing this everywhere. Whatever the case may be. If you're, for me, I'm a Crystal Bridges person. If I see something interesting there, it might be a story, whether it's, they have a new sculpture out along the bike trail, or hey, I was riding my bike past this, looks like they're about to wrap this up and open up that section. I'm gonna make a call over to the city and say, hey, are you about to open this section of the Greenway? What date is that open? Can you let me know? And immediately, those become stories.
I think those are all my questions. Do you have any
Great
more
questions.
tips or tricks?
Oh gosh. I think this is a very exciting time for you, and I think you should relish it. And like I said, the biggest thing for me is be a hard worker. Our jobs are not 9 to 5. There are going to be times when you've got to stay late. There are going to be times when you get called in on your day off. And to have a really positive outlook on those things, because what that is more ammunition in your pocket of what an awesome news reporter, more experience, more notability, more time of your face on television, more writing exercises, et cetera, et cetera. So just try to go into it with a positive outlook. And, again, asking for feedback, because as a manager, I can tell you, I deal with stuff that nobody has any idea about elsewhere in the newsroom. And sometimes feedback falls off my priority list, but then when people say, I need it, we're able to deliver that. And if you don't fight for feedback for yourself, no one else will.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and doing
Absolutely.
this with me. Okay. I don't know if we wrap this up. Okay. That'll do it for us.
All right. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking me, Erica.